Pack your things and leave. You're not welcome here anymore. You never were. She didn't whisper it. She didn't hesitate. My older sister, Serena, looked me dead in the eyes and said those words like she'd been rehearsing them for years. And I was still holding the black dress I wore to my father's burial. My name is Nora Calloway. I'm 29 years old. 3 days ago, I stood at my father's grave. And somehow, I managed to lose my home in the same week. The driveway was still wet from the morning rain. I stood there, suitcase beside me, staring at the house where I took my first steps. The porch light above the door kept flickering. Dad always meant to fix it. He just never got around to it. Now that house didn't belong to him anymore. It belonged to her. Earlier that afternoon, Serena had sat across from me at the kitchen table, arms crossed, jaw set. Dad left everything to me, she said flatly. The house, the business, the accounts, all $47 million. I remember waiting for her face to soften, for her to say she was joking. She didn't. She just stood up, walked to the front door and held it open. Like I was someone who had stopped by uninvited. So I left. Not because I believed her, but because I had nothing left to argue with. Except something didn't sit right. Not the silence, not her tone, not even the timing. Something deeper was wrong, something I couldn't name yet. I ended up at a motel on the edge of town. Peeling wallpaper, buzzing vending machine in the hallway, the kind of place Dad would have laughed about. But paid for anyway, if I needed it. And that's the thought that kept pulling me back. Because nothing about this felt like my father. My father, Richard Calloway, built Calloway Freight from a 2-truck operation into a company worth serious money. He was disciplined, calculated. He didn't make decisions without thinking them through twice. He was not a man who acted out of spite, especially not toward me. I was the one who sat beside him through every growth phase. I learned his spreadsheets before I learned to drive. I was in negotiation rooms at 22, taking notes while older men underestimated both of us. When he wanted to expand into the Northeast Corridor, I built the proposal. When a competitor tried to undercut us, I restructured the pricing model. He didn't just love me, he trusted me. Serena, she showed up at the holiday dinners. She borrowed money for things she never explained. She sent voice notes instead of coming home when Dad got sick. So the story she was selling didn't add up. And my father had raised me to notice when the numbers don't match. I sat on the edge of that motel bed and stared at a folder I didn't even remember grabbing on my way out. My hands must have moved on instinct. Inside were old contracts, a few handwritten notes, and one name circled in Dad's handwriting. Hargrove, Ellis Hargrove, attorney. And then I remembered. 1 week before he passed, Dad had pulled me aside after dinner. His voice was quieter than usual, more deliberate. "Nora," he said, "when the time comes, don't trust what you're told. Read everything yourself." I hadn't understood it then. I did now. I didn't sleep. I just sat with that folder until the sky outside turned gray. Then I called a cab. The Hargrove and Cole building downtown looked exactly like it always had. Clean glass, marble steps, the kind of building that made you feel like decisions made inside it were permanent. I walked in without an appointment. The receptionist looked up with a polished smile. "Do you have a scheduled visit?" "No," I said, "but my father did." 7 minutes later, I was sitting across from a man in his late 60s. Silver hair, steady hands, the kind of calm that only comes from having seen everything. "You must be Nora," he said. Not Miss Calloway, not a question. He already knew who I was. "My sister told me this morning that she inherited everything," I said carefully. He looked at me for a long moment. Then slowly, he leaned back in his chair and he smiled. "I was beginning to wonder when you'd walk through that door." My stomach dropped straight to the floor. "Nora," he said, sliding a document across the desk, "did you actually read the will?" I hadn't. And sitting in that office, I suddenly understood that was exactly what Serena had been counting on. I looked down at the pages. Legal language, dense paragraphs, numbered clauses. But one line cut through all of it immediately. Bold, unmistakable. Primary beneficiary, Nora Calloway. My own name, staring back at me. That's not possible, I breathed. It's not only possible, Mr. Hargrove said. It was very deliberately structured this way. My mind was spinning. Then why does Serena believe she has everything? He removed his glasses and set them on the desk. Because, he said carefully, she was supposed to believe it for a while. I stared at him. There's a conditional clause, he continued, pressing one finger to the page. Your sister was granted temporary administrative control of the estate, under one specific condition. I leaned forward. What condition? He looked at me directly. That she would demonstrate she was capable of protecting you. The silence in that room was total. Because in one sentence, everything I had experienced in the last 3 days rearranged itself into a completely different picture. The cruelty, the speed, the cold way she pointed to the door. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had walked straight into a trap she didn't know existed. And she had failed it within 72 hours. Your father anticipated that conflict would follow his passing, Mr. Hargrove said. So he built a test into the structure of the estate. Control was never the same as ownership. I exhaled slowly for the first time in days. What happens now? I asked. Now we formally document that the condition was violated, he said. Once confirmed, the estate transfers to you, completely, permanently. I nodded once. What do you need? Evidence of the violation. I opened my phone without a word. The voice recording from the driveway, her telling me I was nothing to her now. The exterior camera footage from the property, time-stamped, clear. The text message she sent 40 minutes after I left. Don't come back. This is my house. We're done. Each one had felt like a wound when I first received it. Sitting in that office, every single one became a document. I stood up slowly, gathered my things, and felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there. It didn't leave. But underneath it, something else had formed. Not rage, not bitterness. Clarity. And this time, I wasn't walking anywhere. 3 days later, I drove back. The house looked exactly the same. Same driveway, same garden, same flickering porch light. But I wasn't standing at the gate with a suitcase this time. A black car pulled up behind mine. Mr. Hargrove stepped out. 2 legal representatives followed. And beside them, a uniformed officer. Present, calm official. Ready? Mr. Hargrove asked. I nodded. He knocked. The footsteps inside were fast and certain. The door swung open. And there was Serena, same posture, same expression of ownership, until she saw who was standing on her porch. Her eyes moved across all of us. What is this? She said sharply. Mr. Hargrove stepped forward. Good afternoon. We're here on behalf of the estate of Richard Calloway. Her chin lifted. I already settled this. It's mine. Temporarily, he said, just one word, perfectly flat. He held out the document. She took it. Her hands were not steady. I watched her eyes move down the page, and I watched the moment she found the clause. No, her voice broke. That's not this can't. It is, Mr. Hargrove said, without raising his voice even slightly. You were required to provide care and housing to your sister following your father's passing. Instead, you removed her from the property within 48 hours of the funeral. The condition was violated. The transfer is now permanent. The color left her face all at once. You can't do this to me. Her voice was barely holding itself together. This is my house. I've been here. I've been managing everything. The house, Mr. Hargrove said, was never yours. The officer took one step forward, didn't say a word, didn't need to. And then Serena turned to me. For the first time in my entire memory, she looked at me. Not past me, not through me. At me. Nora, her voice came out small, fractured. Please, we can figure this out, I'll fix it. You can stay, we'll split everything, just. You told me I meant nothing. My voice stayed quiet, steady. That landed somewhere I didn't expect. Her eyes filled immediately. I was scared, I was overwhelmed. Dad was gone and I just. So was I said. 2 words. And I meant every syllable of them. That was the end of it. Mr. Hargrove gave a single nod. Within the hour, all arrangements were complete. Legal, documented, final. She didn't leave gracefully. People who have never been held accountable rarely do. She sat on the couch. She cried. She tried 3 more times to negotiate with me, then with Mr. Hargrove, then with the officer. But the paper was already signed. The process was already in motion. By the time the sun went down, the house was mine. Fully, completely, without condition. But here's what I've been thinking about since that evening. The will didn't just transfer an estate. It revealed a person. My father didn't leave me $47 million because he thought I needed saving. He left it to me because he understood something I had spent years refusing to fully accept. That the people who share your blood are not automatically the people who deserve your trust. Trust isn't inherited, it's demonstrated, repeatedly, in small moments and in hard ones. Serena had every opportunity. And she used it to slam a door in my face while I was still in mourning. Dad saw it before I did. He just made sure that, when it happened, I would have everything I needed to stand back up. When the door finally closed behind her that evening, I didn't feel like I'd won something. I felt like I'd finally stopped losing. And if this story sat with you, if you've ever been made to feel like nothing by someone who should have chosen you, I want you to know this. The people who try to erase you quietly are usually the ones most afraid of what you'd become if you stayed. Stay anyway. If this story hit different, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're new here, subscribe. There's more where this came from.